What is the scariest slash creepiest theory you know about? Okay, this one is rough, so please bear with me. So the common time travel question is, would you go back and kill baby Hitler? Well, imagine if that was you. To us in the current timeline, you would be a hero that killed someone truly evil before they had chance to corrupt or endanger anyone, but to the people of that time you are a monster, a baby killer. They cold nerd exactly explain to people, I was sent from the future to kill this baby, to save hundreds of millions of lives. No one would believe him, and would just assume he was some nutcase. Or maybe you're not allowed to tell anyone as per the agreement with the future government. It makes you wonder, all the people through time that have been called monsters for killing babies, what if they were just heroes from the future saving us all? They cold nerd to anyone either. Edit. Wow, to awards, thank you so much. It may seem sarcastic, but it has been a rough year and this level of acceptance means a lot. I need to go to sleep, but I can't put my phone away because of this thread. This is a theory, but I just think it's cool. Now how movies and shows always have this ancient alien race here that came way before us, and we're the new species. Well, technically, most likely that's wrong. We are near the beginning of the universe. If the universe was a person, we would literally barely be a cell, not even formed. In reality, we are the ancient species, we are the ones that come before, we are the ones some future civilization may see. Just a crazy thing to think about. I have a sleep disorder that causes nightmares and dreams that are often indistinguishable from reality. I live whole lives with partners and kids or work jobs in strange places for decades in full technicolor details, and reach old age before waking. Sometimes it's so intense that I sob and grieve for the lost relationships, as if my real life partner has died. I'm confused to be my own age and be here, now. The theory that this life is a dream slash simulation type thing feels pretty real to me. My brain seems to create whole viable realities anyway. That a robot could fail the Turing test if it wanted to. Not much of a theory, more of a conjecture, but fossilization is actually quite rare. It takes extremely specific set of circumstances for a dead organism to even become fossilized, let alone survive intact to the modern day, to be found by humans. Because of this, there are likely millions of species we will simply never know about because none of them ever fossilized. For all we know, we might not even be the first intelligent species to evolve here on Earth. There could have been a species that formed a civilization at some point and then went extinct later on, but we'll possibly never know that because there are no fossils that formed slash survived today. It probably wouldn't have been an advanced, industrialized civilization like the kind we have today, as we would have surely found evidence for it by now, but I could easily see something on par with ancient Egypt disappear completely after millions of years. The last neuron in the brain can fire up to 72 hours after clinical death. What is classed as still being alive? Your heart stops, or your brain activity stopping? As a nurse, this plays on my mind. I always talk to the recently deceased as I would do usually. Hearing is the last sense to go anyway, so chances are people can still hear for a short time after death. I have to confirm death on a daily basis. We check heart sounds, breathing, eye response and pain response, but part of me knows that electrical activity is still going on in there. I'm a hospice nurse and morbid thoughts are what I do best. Any type of human trafficking, poor young kids, vulnerable women trafficked for sex, kept in cages, in tiny apartments without beds or any amenities, many forcibly hooked on drugs to keep them compliant and dependent on their owners, forced into terrifying sexual encounters, barely fed or clothed. In places like Dubai there are tens of thousands of Asian manual laborers who are essentially slaves who have their passports removed, forced to live in severely overcrowded apartments, with upwards of 30 plus men sharing a one-bedroom showbox apartments, no access to medical care, not access to legal support, paid barely enough to feed themselves. Who went into Dubai on short-term contracts, to provide for their family years, but unable to get home. They then lapse the legal period of their visas and contracts, which means if they go to the police to try and leave back home, they face steep fines and jail time for overstaying, which serves as a deterrent to them reaching out for help. Any of those scenarios is purely awful and terrifying to me. Some smart people I know say life extension tech will exponentially explode in the next century, transforming adult lifespans the same way antibiotics, vaccines, and sanitation irrevocably transform childhood survival rates. If we had nerd block stem cell research, we could be the ones living youthful, nearly disease-free lives, but we have missed our chance by 1 or 2 generations. The Velar Incident. September 1979, a US Velar satellite detected a double flash of light over an area of the ocean between South Africa and Antarctica. The prior 41 double flashes observed by the satellite were from nuclear explosions, as this is what they were designed to observe. There also happened to be a typhoon happening in the area at the time, so it seemed like someone wanted to detonate it without being caught. Carter administration reported that it was a natural occurrence due to a small meteorite hitting the satellite. However, many other independent sources and even other countries have reported that they did indeed find traces of fallout and radiation. Because of the geopolitical climate of the times, there is very strong evidence that it was in fact a joint nuclear weapon test carried out by South Africa and Israel, and the US scrubbed the information regarding it because they didn't want to paint their allies in Israel in a bad light for working with apartheid-era South Africa. Strangely enough, Israel and South Africa have never denied having nuclear weapons programs, nor have they ever denied a joint test being responsible for the Velar incident. The man from Tord. He was going through an airport, and when asked for his passport he gave the people a fully legitimate passport, except the country he was from didn't exist. He argued that it was right between France and Spain, and had been there over 200 years. Since the passport was legitimate, but the country wasn't on the map, they put him up in a hotel for the night with guards outside his 4-story room. He was gone, along with all his things the next morning. Not a trace. Not a theory, but a matter of fact. The Milky Way and many other nearby galaxies are hurtling towards the same point in space, being attracted by something, we don't know what, because our view is blocked, but it's pulling galaxies towards itself. Big ones too. The Milky Way is a rather large galaxy. Whatever this great attractor as it's been dubbed, it's insanely massive. Update. After one of how prompted me to link an article, I found out NASA, using Hubble, had actually solved the mystery here. If the human body senses trauma it is unable to combat, it will switch off metabolism, pump endorphins, and slip into a pain-free dissociative state. In essence, shutting down. It's been seen in air crashes, and lots of places really. Basically your body can switch itself off. This is real. Until 2020 scientists had no idea why anesthesia works. Think about that. You're going into surgery, they are going to know you out, but they don't know why it works. During the Challenger accident from 1986, whenever the shuttle exploded, the ground crews had the astronauts' EKGs and vital scans. After the explosion, the astronauts were still alive. Theory has it that they were cognizant the entire time, until they crashed in the ocean. The dark forest theory. This explains the Fermi paradox, why we haven't yet seen any other advanced life forms despite the vastness of the universe. Other advanced life forms don't yet send out signals into the rest of the universe, because they're worried that something more advanced and dangerous is going to find them first. There's another idea that other civilizations know there's something out there, but don't yet send any signals, because it has no reason to not whip in at the entire planet. There's a science fiction book based on this, and I think this quote explains it better than I can. Your universe is a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter stalking through the trees like a ghost, gently pushing aside branches that block the path, and trying to tread without sound. Even breathing is done with care. The hunter has to be careful, because everywhere in the forest are stealthy hunters like him. If he finds another life, you're another hunter, angel, or a demon, a delicate infant, a tottering old man, a fairy or demigod, there's only one thing he can do: open fire and eliminate them. If you die by being beheaded, the last thing you might see is your decapitated body. Cosmology can be disturbing. For instance, I recently learned of dead-end trips. There are some destinations that you shouldn't try for. It's possible to travel so far away from where you started that the expansion of the universe will exceed the speed you were traveling at. You can't return home because home is receding faster than you can travel. You can't reach your destination because it too is receding faster than you can travel. You can no longer get anywhere, only get further away from everything. You cannot reach any destination, even if you travel forever. A lot of comments bringing up the Fermi paradox to explain the lack of evidence of extraterrestrial life, when by all accounts we should be seeing alien life all over the universe. Here's another unsettling explanation. If you're scuba diving above a coral reef and you know that there should be fish all around you, but you don't see any, it's most likely that they have learned that for some reason it's important not to be seen. And since you're a newcomer to this environment, chances are it's not you they are hiding from. Edit. The number of scuba divers saying they've experienced this and then noticed a shark nearby is alarming. Not theory but fact. The average terminal velocity of a kindergartner is 60 miles per hour.